Why would you drive 2 hours for a cheese sandwich from a Ziploc bag? Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
I'm Todd, and together we have 65 years of combined motorcycling experience and 30 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, the routes, other tips, and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the toolkit. In the toolkit today, we're going to talk about hydration systems. I'm not sure why I called it hydration systems. That sounds like a really technical engineering term.
I'm drinking out of my hydration system.
What is your hydration system of choice? For me, since still today, mine is a plastic bottle of water that's in the trunk that heats up to about 400 degrees.
Yeah, for me it's I think it's Karaoke cup holder mounted on my handlebars, and I've got like a Yeti.
Yeah.
Yeah, a Yeti on there.
So that's there's like basically three different things.
Yeah.
The cup holder version, hydration packs, which is kind of like the Camelback style, that you literally put in there. Sometimes they have them on their back. Sometimes people put them in a tank bag.
Oh.
And then the third one is one I've been researching and we can talk more about, is this bike-mounted water bottles. So the cup holder one we can knock off easy. I mean, everybody's seen them, I think. It's just, generally speaking, a ram-mounted ball mount clamp on usually the handlebars. Passengers, they'll usually throw another ball mount back on the grip somewhere so that they can have one. And it's just, it's a big gulp holder, right? I mean, and I think, people use the Yeti or the super insulated cups just to keep the water cool.
I also use this one here. It's a Contigo, but what I like is there's a straw in here when you flip it. Then you don't have to tip your head back to try and drink. You can just
Good point.
Suck out of it.
That's
out
a
of the
great
straw.
point, actually.
It is.
Because, number one, not everyone has the full modular helmet. Number two, modular helmet here. My favorite part is when you reach back and do this, and the wind grabs the modular helmet, and then pretty soon I'm about ready to get yanked off the back of the motorcycle.
Yeah. So a straw is a good idea.
It is a good idea.
I know my wife, when she rides on the back, it's like a Yeti cup, but it's got the straw in it.
Right.
Maybe it's a Stanley cup now. I don't know. Everybody's using those.
You have to have that.
Yeah, you have to. But yeah, I think the straw idea or something you can just.
That's a good. Yeah, because then, then you don't. I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah.
So. And then this third kind of is probably the most complicated of them all. It's combination of both. And what people are buying is the super insulated gallon jug. And then they're kind of using a hydration pack style bite valve. And they're running up from say the passenger floorboard.
Really?
And then they'll run a tube up. Because then you don't have to refill it. And so you can pretty much get a day's worth of riding in and the ice won't melt. And then actually, I showed you. I sent you that video of that mega Goldwing build.
Yeah.
They actually had the hydration pack all the way in the back. They ran the tube all the way up front. And what they were saying was that they were getting hot water.
Hot water, I was going to say.
And the solution was not use the bite valve, and they actually pushed the water back
all the way back.
And then started it over every time. So
That'd be a lot of...
it's good for the lungs. It'll be good for working the system, the breath system. So, but that's kind of the thing. There's that one that wouldn't, if it was down here. I mean, that's pretty good. This was built on a bike that was more into the iron butt long term, so they really needed the hydration. So I mean, you really do need to stay hydrated. From a safety, it's just, we've talked about this many times. You get dried up, and it's not good.
The wind blowing on you really just evaporates all the moisture off your body, and
and for me too, I notice I get tired, and I think sometimes I'm just getting tired, and I think it's starting of dehydration, too. So
Ride Wise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. So for the ride-wise section, we're going to talk about some road hazards.
Yeah.
What do you need to be careful of? Well, in the Midwest, there's, of course, snow plows and they do salting and they do sanding of roads and
The water does freezing and then it does expansion.
freezing, expansion. We have gravel shoulders, so there's really all kinds of stuff to watch.
Critters.
For. There's critters. There's deer.
Parts of the previous vehicle that was in front of you.
Yeah. So especially when you're in corners, I've seen where, where a snowplow maybe had gone through that area and pulled a little gravel from the inside of the corner and kind of drug it out into the road, and you come into a corner and there's gravel there, sand, left over, and
in the rain, so you're in a corner and sometimes the rain will push that water up. I know we're going to talk about the driftless here in a little bit.
Good point.
Wisconsin has the greatest secondary roads in all the states I've been in, but there's so many corners down at the bottom of these hills sometimes, so you'll get some of that runoff.
Yeah.
And you'll get that gravel in there. And it, 99% of the time you should be just fine, but that 1% of the time, just enough to kind of scoot you a little. It'll scoot you, and so you definitely want to be careful of that.
Yeah. And then, in the Midwest, we have deer.
Yeah.
We have raccoons. We have possums, especially at, dusk or, nighttime, good lighting, because they're out there and they're dumb. They cross whenever they want. They'll even run into the side of you. And you have experience with that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. I mean, also just the way that they construct the roads, they lay one side down and then they lay the other side down. And what you see too is in, 2 years before they replace that road, there's a gutter down the middle, which then makes everything worse because it freezes and expands again. So, but road hazards. And you'd mentioned this, I think, in the last podcast, but that's sometimes when I find myself using foot signals. If you see something on the right side of your bike, stick that right foot out.
Point
if you
to
see
it,
something on the left, put your left foot out. And if someone's pointing, sometimes people just look that way. But if you put that foot out, it's kind of like, hey, there's danger down below. And sometimes before I can even say it, I got my foot out. And I think it sometimes can be a better visual, and then it's helpful to people that don't have the communicators. That's kind of a common.
It's great. That's something that our group has done from the beginning, especially when we didn't have the communicators, is stick a foot out, on the left side or the right side if there's something in the road. And, that's fantastic. Potholes, buckles in the pavement from the heat, and
just
freezing
anything, like just random stuff that people dropped out of their vehicle.
Yeah, we've seen all kinds of stuff laying on the road.
The next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. For the mile marker today, I thought we'd talk about the driftless area. Now, when I say the word driftless, 80% of the time, people have no idea what I'm talking about.
I had only heard about driftless for the first time, maybe like within this last year. I'd never even heard that term.
It's been around a little longer than that.
Well, I know, but I had never heard this term before.
The driftless is an area that covers Wisconsin, not all, but parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois. Illinois.
There's
not? Okay.
Illinois.
Both of them. Both the Illinois. But, sorry, in those states, kind of in that area where they meet, it's because of the Great Lakes, when the Ice Age came in the last time, it actually was never touched by ice.
Okay.
And I believe there's one of two places in the world that this has ever happened in that last Ice Age. So the ground that you see in that area it's not been overrun by the ground like that brought all the silt and soil. Okay. Because the kind of, if you think of the Great Lakes blocked it was coming from that way and it blocked it. And so it wrapped around but left that kind of pocket there. So if you go out to the driftless, if you do some research, it's wild, man. But there's caves, kind of funky sinkholes, cold streams because there's these ice caves that live down below them that were not filled in with stuff. But yeah, it's so cool for just ecosystems. Some plants and animals that live there don't exist anywhere else.
Really?
I know my niece, she studied at Luther College, and they call them these ice cave flues. And then there's these plants that live right where the limestone holes where this cold air come out. And these plants can only live like in the Arctic, but because the temperature is a constant like 30 degrees that are coming out of the ground. Wow. And so these certain crazy plants, it's just the neatest thing. Once you like see it, you can't unsee this whole thing, and you go down to this rabbit hole. But what it also did was made some amazing motorcycle roads because of all the turns and kind of different variations in ground. So not a lot of people living there. It's really cool. It's a great place to ride motorcycles, but yeah.
Yeah, so. I had never heard that term driftless.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being talked about in school. Did I go to school?
They definitely didn't talk about it ever. But yeah, they've got a great little documentary out too. But when I think of the driftless, I also think of riding the alphabet in southwestern Wisconsin. All the county roads are letters instead of numbers. So everyone says if you ever want to find a good road, just ride one that has a letter on it, which is all of them. Yeah. Just amazing racing there. In Iowa, one of the best roads, part of the Great River Road, is called C9Y. That's like just north of Dubuque at Balltown, kind of up into the like Gaze Mills, Lansing area. Great roads, overlooks.
I see like the letter C, the number 9.
Yep,
9
and then Y as
okay.
the letter, back to the letter Y.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think you took the Cassville Ferry. There's a ferry that crosses over from Iowa to Wisconsin. The coolest, I don't know, it doesn't take long, but like you ride up to this thing, you hit a button that says call for the ferry.
Call for the ferry.
And pretty soon she's coming back across. You just park the bikes on it and you cruise across. And yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, not a real big ferry.
No. A couple, cool. I don't know, probably 6 cars maybe total. Maybe not, maybe that many.
Yeah.
The KTM that Turk all let me borrow broke down and almost threw a tire in the driftless. So I think of that when I think of the driftless.
True.
But we've also rode together up to the Mindoro Cut, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a town in Wisconsin called Mindoro. Mm-hmm. And
that's hand cut. It's like one of 2 hand cut passes through a bluff or through a mountain, right?
Yeah. Rock Pass or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I can't remember how wide it is, but it's not super wide.
No, just
not 30 feet probably.
No, it's 2 lanes, but it's just impressive that it was hand cut.
Yep.
And there's a nice sign
placard
describing
I think they
all
said
of it there.
Human and horse powered only.
Yeah,
it's neat. I mean, and it kind of just comes up on you, and I think it's a bluff that just, I don't know what that's from. It's kind of just like a snake of rock, and they cut through it. It's cool. There's a little bar there that also serves like 300 different kinds of hamburgers in Mindoro. So. I always thought it was the greatest business idea ever, right? They had a hamburger. They've had like 12 things.
Yeah.
And then you can put one of them, it's like, oh, it's the cowboy burger. It has an onion ring and barbecue sauce. Not to be confused with the Southwest burger that has onion ring and ranch dressing.
Ranch dressing, okay.
But, no, it's a cool place too. A little place there, but. And then one of my favorite of all time, I guess, things is something called the Slimy Crud Run.
You're making this up, right?
I wish I were. There's a website. So there's a place in Pine Bluff, Wisconsin to Leland, Wisconsin. And 2 times a year, the very first Sunday of May and the very first Sunday of October, kind of like an homage to opening the motorcycle season and closing the motorcycle season. And I've never been in a place where I've seen the variety of bikes that the Slimy Crud Run has. You'll see one of everything. And I mean that like every possible sport bike, cruiser, old bikes, new bikes, somebody made a bike, like
rat bikes.
Rat ride. Oh gosh, there's cool ones. And I think part of that is like, I don't know. I'm from Iowa, and I don't like to say too many good things about Wisconsin, but like the innovation in Wisconsin is the craziest thing ever. I mean, Harley Davidson started in Wisconsin. I think Indian started in Wisconsin. All these tractor companies started in Wisconsin. And my working theory on it is it gets so damn cold there in the winter. All they have to do is drink beer and sit in the shed and make stuff. But like the people up there Wisconsin is a huge motorcycle area. Mm-hmm. And they are into weird stuff. So you'll see Vespas, you'll see just the most odd things up there. Yeah. So it's kind of a ride from Pine Bluff to Leland, and then usually you're supposed to come back. I've never come back from Leland. I just went home.
It's a one day thing?
It's on that one Sunday. I'd have to look up the times, but if you Google Slimy Crud Run, there's a website and you'll see it.
The cheese sandwich? What was the cheese sandwich?
Well, that's the beauty. You go to the bar, the Sprecker's Bar in Leland, and you get a summer sausage and cheese sandwich. And it's, of course, there'll be 700 motorcycles probably over, and it's just, there's no rules, there's no nothing. People just park, come in, and we'll have to go. There's so many people.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But yeah, you get a summer sausage and cheese sandwich on bread in a Ziploc bag.
So it's not a grilled cheese sandwich.
No. That'd be way too much work. Like, I'm not sure. Like, they probably will sell 2,000 sandwiches or more.
Jeez.
Like, yeah. It's kind of like if Moonshine were in a town, Moonshine, Illinois, we're in a town. But yeah, summer sausage and cheese, we're going to have to go for sure.
All right.
Yeah, this is good stuff. But it's beautiful. And the ride is wonderful and everything about it. So,
First Sunday in May.
First Sunday in May, first Sunday in October.
All right.
So I think that's May 5th this year, which is in about a month.
I'm not available that day.
Of course you're not. That's what you do this year. I didn't talk about another place, Rocky's Supper Club in Stoddard, Wisconsin. It's right across from the Thirsty Turtle.
Oh. All right. I've seen the Thirsty Turtle. I know where that's at.
The Thirsty Turtle's a bar in Stoddard, but across the street, I think we ate there. It's a supper club. Well, in Wisconsin, shocker, supper club.
Right, supper clubs everywhere.
That was great. It's a great place to go.
So I've been there.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Possible.
I get confused.
Check my Google timeline.
I get confused a little bit. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to explore the Driftless, I just can't say enough good things about it. I would love to find a place up there and just it'd be a good place to live. And you like fishing, the fishing is insane up there too. And it's these creek beds and these areas that's it's just wild. Definitely check out the Driftless documentary. The podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there. But you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind. So today's roadside Q&A comes from Kevin. Thanks, Kevin, for asking the question. And he wants to know what is our advice for riders who are new to group riding and are considering joining a long-distance ride for the first time? That's a great question. But really, I have to say that, Kevin, make sure you show up ready to go. And when I say ready to go, make sure your tank is full of fuel. Don't show up with a half tank,
right?
Or thinking you're going to stop right away and fill up. Fuel tank is full. Your water bottles are full. Hydration.
Yep.
Make sure you've already eaten. Don't show up hungry because you might start out with a 2 or 3 or 4 hour ride. Have some snacks, close by, either in your coat pockets or in, easy to reach places on your bike. Make sure you've done your safety checks. Check your tire pressures, your lights, your tire tread.
Yeah.
Check your brakes, your oil level, your clutch and brake fluid. Really kind of go through your bike.
Yeah.
And then, that way you don't have to show up like you are a beginner. You can kind of show up a little prepared and ready to roll. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, no, I think that's good, and especially the safety check super much when you're do multi-day rides. But there's a lot of local groups that do day rides, and I think it's important to get there early. I went on a group ride last year, and I've been on group rides with us a number of times, but I had never went with that group. And everybody's group's a little different. Their communication, they like using CBs. Well, I couldn't hear them then. I didn't have a way to do that. They did a little safety check, and then like we've talked about before, they have one of their people in the front and one of their people in the back because that's what they're comfortable with. And so you just kind of have to I think you were mentioning it, but have a little meeting beforehand. Most kind of people that are going to do this know that it's a good idea to have that little meeting. And I think that can't be understated. If you're doing one, just tell people how you like to ride, and it's okay. And So yeah, that's one of the things. And they were like, I was getting a little shamed for not having a CB. So
And they might
Yeah.
talk about, we're going to ride 120 miles and then look for fuel. It might, they might discuss that ahead of
the
time.
expectation is you fill up with fuel before you go, for sure.
Yeah.
And and the group that I was riding in was almost all the same bikes, so then you were running the same mileage. So if you do have a bike that is a little bit short, I'd say less than 120 miles, because generally speaking, people are going to ride. They're not going to want to get off. And so if you can't go 120, make sure you tell people, hey, I'm going to need fuel at this point, or I need to stop because, whatever. So I think maybe just adding on to what you were saying, is just communicate, and think and listen and be aware. It's time for the last mile. It's kind of how we close out each episode with our reflections of what we talked about today. So Todd, what's your reflection?
Well, the Driftless Area for me, I need to just, now that I know what it is and where it is, I just really pay attention and look for all the signs because, and I don't mean
Here's
a sign. I mean,
No.
what that area looks like because of that Driftless Area and the lack of, I guess the
It's just kind of a hidden
icebergs
gem.
there,
Yeah.
didn't go through, and flatten things out. But just kind of making myself aware of that now.
Yeah,
because
it's
I do
cool.
like to ride in Wisconsin.
Oh, gosh.
Those roads up there are fantastic.
Absolutely. For me, I would highly recommend one time getting to the Slimy Crud Run. It's wild. I mean, and it's just classic Wisconsin. Like I say, nobody's worried if you're driving a Harley, a Honda, or a Huffy. Nobody cares. They really don't. And it's just everyone's looking at everybody else's bikes, and it's a cool thing.
What's the distance of that ride?
It's like 17 miles.
Okay.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Okay. So it's more just sitting around looking at bikes and enjoying each other. I see.
Absolutely. Now, some bikes will bring there. You wouldn't want to ride more than 17 or so miles. So just so you know, like there's going to be some Vespas, mopeds, bikes with hard tails, soft tails, 1910s, and a brand new, one guy brings this thing called an RC7. It's an old Yamaha that was never really a production bike. So you'll see bikes that they might even have license plates on some of them. So yeah, it's pretty cool. If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads. The stories ride forever. Take care.